Welcome to the Mischief Maker broadcast, where chaos, creativity, and common sense collide. Your host, Joe Freeman, was kicked out of high school in Alberta, Canada. He left home at 17 and hitchhiked around North America as a long-haired hippie and dope-smoking fool. He made a 180-degree change, becoming one of the first chaplains in the history of the NBA. As a professional speaker, Joel has traveled to well over 55 countries. His many books have been published in 28 foreign translations. Pieces from his Black History collection have been seen by millions at the United Nations and many other venues. And now, the Chief Mischief Maker himself, Dr. Joel A. Freeman.
Hey, how you doing? It's good to see you today. Good to be with you today. We have people from all around the world tuning in live. I want you to get your fingers all ready to ask questions. We're going to be talking about a very interesting person by the name of Annie Malone. If you've never heard of her, join the club. It is not too many years ago, I'd never even heard of her, Annie Turnbo Malone. But maybe you've heard of Madam C.J. Walker. She was the one who was the mentor for Madam C.J. Walker. And it's a fascinating story. We're going to be talking with her great-grandnephew, Agbara Bryson. He's waiting in the wings. He's ready to come on. And he's going to be sharing a lot of history, a lot of great information about Annie Malone that I think will be very relevant to you. She was one of the first in Missouri, the state of Missouri, St. Louis area, to own a Rolls Royce. She paid, just imagine this, 1926, she paid over $38,000 in taxes. Now, even today, if you're paying $38,000 in taxes, you're paying a fair amount, you're making a good living. But she was, in 1926, it's just almost unheard of. She owned a whole city block in Chicago. Her philanthropy was legendary when she built this whole business around hair care and beauty products. She was the first Avon, the first Mary Kay, if you will. And she helped to establish something at a time when men were hired last and fired first in the Black community across America. And another thing is that she trained over 75,000 women entrepreneurs. And they went around and she incentivized them that if someone stayed with her as an agent for 5 years, guess what? She would give that woman a diamond ring as a thank you, a tangible expression of appreciation. And then she would give cash awards. If she discovered that someone had opened a savings account, she'd say, hey, here's some money. So put in your savings account. If someone had bought a house, she would say, here's some money. That'll take care of maybe next month's payments or whatever it might be that she gave her. And so just a wonderful human being that I think it is going to be, you're going to be fascinated to hear more about her life. And another thing is that, I think about all the different situations that we have in our lives when we think about the difficulties in various civilizations. You can look at Canada and see the issues with the Aboriginals. In Japan with Koreans. We can look at Australia with the Aboriginal settlements, the people that were there prior to the individuals coming to the penal colony that we now know as Australia. We can look at India and some of the caste system issues in India to this day. And United Kingdom. I have a friend who had a Cockney accent, and I was going to introduce him to a good friend of mine with the last name Guinness. I guess his family, they owned the Guinness Ale Company. And I was going to put him on the phone with him. And my friend with a Cockney accent, who I found to be just delightful to listen to, said, no, he freaked out. Because he said, the moment I opened my mouth, he's going to know where I come from, and he's going to judge me. And I thought, wow, what a burden that is. What a crazy situation that is. We have a lot of pain in this world. And we talk about reparations. You know, this is a politics-free zone on the Mischief Maker broadcast. But we do mess around with different things. That's what mischief making is all about. It's about being curious. It's about looking at things through a different lens, from a different angle, and trying to figure things out in a solutional way, to be solutionists and to be people that are critical thinkers and try to work through the issues. And we have all types of reparations. We have at least 6 types of reparations that a professor, Dr. Alfred Brophy from University of North Carolina back in 2006 wrote a book. And in this book, he said there are 6 types of reparations. The first is the return to sovereignty or political authority. Number 2, he said, was to have truth commissions. That's what they did in South Africa, for instance. And these truth commissions where people began to open up their hearts and minds about things. And then group entitlements is a third type of reparations he mentions in his book. Another one is community development programs. Money transfer is a 5th type of reparations, actually giving cash to people that have been harmed and hurt because of just the way they've been dealt with in the past. Property transfer, or as he says, it's a combination maybe of all 6 or some of the 6. Now, why do I bring that up when we talk about Annie Malone? Good question. I'm so glad you brought it up. Before I share why I want to bring it up, I want to share a song that I wrote and produced. It's called Vision Rich, Cash Poor. And Mel, if you could cue that up and let's put it on right now.
So fine. We talked about marriage, how we want our lives to shine. She's got her own dreams, and so do I. But it seems like we don't have enough to even try. I got a business plan, an idea so great, but I need the cash with low interest rate. I know it's risky, but I believe in me, and I know my love, she's my guarantee. Money's tight, but our dreams are bright. Together we'll make it, we'll be alright. We got love, that's the score. Vision rich, cash poor. My girl has doubts about our future life. She worries about the little money, if it's enough to be man and wife. But I reassure her that I'll do all I can to make her dreams come true and work the plan. Money's tight, but our dreams are bright. Together we'll make it, we'll be alright. We got love, so let's explore. Vision rich, cash poor. We had each other, and that was the plan. Years clicked by, life had ups and downs, but we stayed true to our dreams, our love unbound. Money's tight, but our dreams are bright. Together we made it, and we're happy tonight. We got love, and that's for sure. Vision rich, cash poor. Looking back, we still have some regrets, but we don't forget all the good times and lost bets. in each other that's worth living for. Money's still tight, but our dreams are bright. Together we made it and we're happy tonight. We got love. Who needs more? Vision rich, cash poor. Got a new knee, but young at heart with our love as the key. Crazy about each other, and that's worth more. Still vision rich, cash poor.
That's Vision Rich, Cash Poor, a song I've been working on for years and finally produced. And I've got Agbara Bryson with me. Agbara, just before I introduce you properly, I want to mention that Annie Malone to me is, and you're your relative, you're the great grandnephew of Annie Malone. Here's a picture of her for everyone who wants to get a sense. She owned this property, built it in St. Louis, Missouri, and just a tremendous person in so many different ways. Here we have the product line that she had. We can see some Poro swag. There's Madam C.J. Walker. We're going to be talking about her. This is an embosser, a seal, a corporate seal that is part of my collection from 1900, the Poro College seal. And this is a textbook I co-wrote with Dr. Walter Milton that has this information in it. But I wanted to mention something, Agbara, is that my idea with Annie Malone is to reanimate her legacy and to, we'll talk about the different types of reparations. For us to wait for the government to come and hand out cash or truth commissions, that's only brought up before a voting cycle, election cycle, and then it never seems to come back around. So I'm thinking of an entrepreneurial approach with low-hanging fruit. The hair care and beauty industry is probably a multi-billion-dollar a year industry, and my idea is to have Annie Malone become like a good housekeeping seal of approval for all goods and services involved in the hair care and beauty industry. At the top, a small number of people that are trustworthy that actually sign an agreement that if anyone gets greedy, because greed is measurable, if anyone gets greedy, gets weird, in measurable ways, they're kicked out from the top. A small group of people that are trusted and trustworthy. At the bottom level, at the ground level, to have, for instance, this is the Poro College. Let's see if I can find it. Here it is. Poro College. That's a diploma from 1926. You can see right in the middle there. And to be able to put that up in barbershops and hair salons all around the country, that will launch tens of thousands of educational conversations about Annie Malone, and from the bottom up, the groundswell of information and knowledge. Then when the folks at the top produce goods and services, and then a good friend of ours in California, her father invented the pick, and she has come up with an aqua-based hair straightening process, scientific chemical process, that then can be private labeled, where one person has a patchouli oil, another one strawberry, another one banana, another one has a blueberry scent to it. and everyone then can begin to create their own products, and then to have a bricks and clicks approach where we have kind of a overnight Amazon approach, or a hair care and beauty product place has some of the products in their barbershop or hair salon. And that way, because I found, Agbara, that blacks will not buy black unless it's a good product, good quality, unless it's fairly priced, and it's available. And so to be able to provide all of those, check all those boxes, and have it be something, then the funds coming in can be used to help rebuild the infrastructures of our cities. As people at the top are not greedy, they get a little bit of money, but for the lion's share of the money goes to, let's say, adopting Peoria, Illinois, and saying, okay, we're going to rebuild Peoria, and we're going to use funds from an entrepreneurial base, from hair care and beauty products, some services, and that's going to be our way. We're going to hire people of color, and we're going to do it in this manner rather than just waiting patiently or impatiently for the government to do something. I'm going to stop blathering on. I want to turn this over to you, Agbara, and tell me what you're thinking.
Well, Joe, I mean, you are always a guy of you're a great visionary. I never thought about all those kind of things that you just mentioned, but all those things make perfect sense. I mean, your vision is so grand, and you're able to see it so clearly, and you're able to have the objectives and things. I mean, that is just an awesome idea that really sounds good. It's something that I like to talk to you more about. It's going to take a lot of work, but that is just an awesome vision. So I'll just tell you a little bit about myself. I was born and raised in Peoria, Illinois. I was raised in public housing. Uh, Never knew anything about Annie Malone. I never heard of her. Well, kinda. When I would go out to my grandparents' house on the farm, and I just would go to this farmhouse. Little did I know that that was the house that Annie Malone had built for her sister Ada and my great grandfather William. I was just we called it the farm. Hey, where you going? Hey, Mom, can I go to the farm and visit my grandparents? Sure, you can. And I'm probably about 5, 6, 7, 10. I did notice that my grandparents they would travel back and forth to Chicago. Uh, I did hear something about, well, Mom, what did they go to Chicago for? Well, they're going to see something. Poro. God, what is that? Well, my grandmother was kind of a secretive person, and I didn't get very much out of her. Oh, you don't need to know that. But as I would look around, I saw a container that said Poro on it. I saw some hair products had Poro on it. I would see some of these, and I'll show you some of these conventions that they would travel around to Chicago and across the country. But I didn't know what it was. I had no idea what it was because my grandmother and my grandfather they really didn't talk about it. My mom never really talked about Annie Malone. I'm not quite sure how much she knew. I knew she probably knew more than me. But when my grandparents died, actually, Annie Malone lived with my grandfather and my uncles, with Ada. Roland was my grandfather's name. Uncle Cal, those were his brother. That was his brother. Uncle Earl, uh, Milo, all those individuals. Milo, though, he was a Turnbo. But Annie Malone she lived with the Moody's. Now I really don't know that much about the Moody's. I look at pictures and things. I think they came from Tennessee, and they were involved. They were church people. As I look at their pictures and things, they look very aristocratic. Uh, so I really didn't know them that well, but I do know that Annie Malone and my grandfather and his brothers and Annie Malone's nieces were very, very, very close. I didn't realize all that till after the death. My grandmother, Frances, and my grandfather, Roland, after Annie Malone's death, they became the executors of Poro and carried it on till it was sold in 1992. But upon their death, they brought all of these papers and pictures and artifacts and things on Poro College. Oh, pictures of Annie Malone, letters that Annie Malone wrote to my uncles, postcards. There was so much stuff, Joe, that it filled up the garage.
Mm.
And to my mom and my daughter, since we really didn't know what we really had, threw a lot of that stuff away. So I don't know what was in there, but I do know I do have some of the collection that was left. So as I was going through these pictures, and thank goodness, my grandmother, she was a meticulous record keeper. She'd have pictures, she'd have the name of the
Mm.
individuals, she would have the dates, who they were. She had deaths when people died, when people were born. So I was saying, what am I going to do with all this stuff? I mean, I'm not Joe. I'm not like you. I wish I was in terms of your creativity, being able to put things together. But what I started noticing is that I couldn't rest. And Joe, you had mentioned, your creative time is between 11 and 1 and 2. Well, Annie Malone started visiting me between 1, 2, 3, 4 o'clock in the morning. And she started guiding me saying, look at this material, look at this. It was so much stuff that I really didn't know where to begin. Uh, Very, very overwhelming. But as I started going through the things and started seeing this treasure, initially I thought it was junk, but it turned out to be treasure. I started learning who Annie Malone was. Who is this woman? That's my aunt. I wish I would have known about her. I wish I would have
Mm.
read about her. I knew about Madam C.J. Walker, but
Hmm.
not Annie Malone. So this
Yeah,
became kind
I
of like
remember
a mission.
coming. I remember coming to
Mhm.
your house and you pulled these boxes out and put them on the kitchen table. We're sitting around just looking at these different treasures in this box, these boxes. I was just blown away.
Well, that's what they were in, Joe.
Hmm.
They were in the garage. Rain, winter, mildew, all those things. I just
Mm.
pulled those things out. I remember going in with my grandson, and I was just looking to the side. So what is that? Had mildew on it. That was Annie Malone's. That was her briefcase. It had
Wow.
Annie Turnbo Malone on there. I said, Grandson, pull that out. Spider webs and all, but that's the kind of way stuff was. It was junk. So
Mm.
as I started had to smell the mildew smell, I had to wear a mask and things. But I really learned a lot about Annie Malone. I believe in a principle called ancestral guidance. What I do, I'm kind of like a trainer and educator involved with the community. Work with a lot of individuals, low income individuals, multiple barriers, workforce development. Had my own program, worked at the college ICC program called Harvest and Dreams. But I thought all that was my ideal. I thought that I was the originator of my path. But as I read about Annie Malone, I wasn't the originator. I was following her path
Mm.
unknowingly. So with that, it helped me form, that many of us are following our ancestors. But Annie Malone, when I learned about her, Joe, I got that one of those rings, one of those diamond rings, that
Hmm.
5-year employment. I got all kind of stuff, and I'm still finding things. But Joel really helped me realize what I had. He was a mentor. He helped me kind of organize things and put things together and really helped me learn who Annie Malone was. I do know that Annie Malone, throughout her life, uh, she did have 10 brothers and sisters, big family, but when she moved here to Peoria to stay with Ada and William and lived in the house, built the house uh, for them, uh, I did learn that that relationship she formed lasted throughout her life. She didn't have children, but her nephews and nieces were like her children. Uh,
Mhm.
the year that she got divorced, I was reading this, she wrote, "Dear nephew Roland, your letter forwarded here to me, and as usual, in the middle of a big program with the orchestra." Now, that's another thing. I didn't know she had an all female orchestra till recently.
Mm.
But it says
I did not
here,
know that either.
yes, all female orchestra. She had classical musicians in her orchestra. But this is saying here, we're at Bethel Church, windows, say last mile, okay. How will things on the farm, so we call it the farm, that's the house that she built for Ada, turn out this year? So I'm just asking about the farm stuff. But she wrote each of her nephews, dear niece, 1927,
Mm.
the year she was going through the divorce, but she never mentioned the divorce. She just wrote the letter saying that I'll see you soon. I miss you, but she never talked about the divorce that she was going through. So all these letters and postcards throughout her life, it was as Annie Malone started to age, when she moved to Chicago, she had sent my Uncle Cal, uh, Grandpa, had sent them to school. And
Mm.
so some turned out to be lawyers, some turned out to be accountants. They started noticing that Aunt Annie she didn't trust anybody because of the things that happened to her, the divorce, people, lawsuits, multiple lawsuits. But they started noticing that we would call it dementia now, early signs of
Mhm.
dementia. And so they just started to say, hey, you know what? We're going to have to take over because Aunt Annie is trying to be her own accountant. And that's when the feds
Wow.
kind of came in. That's when the
Oh,
kind of
wow.
feds came.
Hmm.
So, okay, there's a question here. When did Annie first
But
create hair? Mhm.
Agbara, we're going to come back to that. We're going to take a break right now
Okay,
for
okay,
our
okay,
sponsor. And
okay.
so we'll come back to that question. That's a wonderful question. Plus, we come back, I want to talk about Madam C.J. Walker and some of the uh, positive aspects and some of the other, stories about her and Annie Malone, Madam C.J. Walker and Annie Malone too. So let's play the. I want you to hear a dreadful accent for Winston Churchill in this upcoming little spot. Thank you, Mel. Mel is our producer behind the scenes, and what it was, it's just a something we'll maybe play. Maybe when he gets it figured out, he can send me a little note or something like that, and say it's ready to go. But it's just a little quick thing about this Jack Johnson booklet that I'd like for you to take a look at. This Jack Johnson, I own a disc from 1910 that Jack talked about the fight of the century, the only one in the world. And so what I've done is...
Hello, I'm Winston Churchill with a dreadful British accent. Back when I was Home Secretary, Jack Johnson fought a match in London. Order Jack Johnson Speaks to hear his real voice. What crazy magic are these QR codes anyway? Order it.
20,000 showed for a fight that was promising. July 4th would go down as timeless. To talk about it, I'd be honored. But why listen to me when you can hear it straight from Jack Johnson, the 15th round right now in his own voice.
Welcome to the fight of the century. In this corner, we have...
You can tell your grandchildren that you just experienced a technical difficulty. We're back now, and this is the booklet. And if you're in the United States, I will actually send this to you, sign it for you, devalues it, but a donation of $10. And if you're outside the United States, I wish I could send this to you, be cost effective. It just wouldn't be cost effective. So we have a digital version for you. If you're in Australia, UK, wherever you are around the world watching this. And so what I'd like for you to do is to get this, and the funds are going to go toward this project called, it's a donation to Rosetta Universe project that they were developed. And the Rosetta Universe is where we take this ancient artifact, the Rosetta Stone, we're transforming it into a modern metaphor for problem solving and critical thinking, building, designing, and then building, fabricating a 5,000 square foot traveling exhibit that'll travel all around North America, and then will help students K through college, help them when they come to visit or see the metaverse version to learn about problem solving and using this epic drama about the Rosetta Stone, the history, the code cracking, language, and culture. And then taking the word Rosetta and 7 steps for solving pretty much any problem in about 8 to 10 categories of problems. And then once the template is done, we're then going to create two more for China, one for Southeast Asia, one for Europe, and another that'll travel to various cities that aren't serviced by the other orbits, like Sydney, Moscow, Rio de Janeiro, Tel Aviv, Joburg. And then after 7 years, 5 months at each venue, they will be donated to different parts of the world to help with tourism and jobs, and then to have a group of people that are native to that region that will identify the top 25 problems of that region of the world, and then using the 7 steps of problem solving, looking through that lens, go about solving those problems in that region of the world. So if you want to know more, just go to the QR code at the very top, and of your just if you're on a laptop or something like that, use your cell phone, put on the camera, and then go to that part there, and then I think it's number 2 on the link tree. And that's the Rosetta Project. And we want you to learn about that. The sponsor, I got some swag on here. And this is all, we don't have merch available yet, but it will be coming. But I just want you to know that they're the sponsor of this particular program. Let's bring Agbara back on. And Agbara, we had a question there. And what was that question again, Mel? The question was, when did Annie first create hair products, and where did she learn it from? Can you respond to that?
Yeah, well, when Annie Malone was an orphan, and when she moved here, when she's 10, 11, 12 years old, she lived with my great-great-grandparents. And one of them was considered an herbist. Annie did not finish high school because she had an illness, coughing, sneezing, with sinus, whatever it was, but she wasn't able to complete high school. So we call her Mother Moody. Mother Moody took Annie out into the woods and was able to find natural herbs and things to treat her cough initially. But also within this formulant thing, she learned that she could use that for skin and hair. So this is the time when she actually used these herbs and things were the base for her formula for the magic hair care grower. So it was early, yes, yes, those became the products and things. But so it was the early late 1900s when she found that. And in 1902, her and her sister they moved, took this product and moved to St. Louis to try to sell it. Well, actually, to sell it, went door to door, and that little thing evolved into this picture that Joe was showing, Poro College. But she learned it in Peoria, Illinois, from Mother Moody. Now, one thing when Aunt Annie came as an orphan to live with her sister, there was a whole family here waiting for her to receive her. And they loved her just like it was their child. And so Aunt Annie really blossomed under those beautiful pictures. That's the I was just sharing with Joe is that that's the piano and stuff that she had in the auditorium. And she also had an all female orchestra that was world renowned, that traveled the world, all ladies there. Great pictures, yep, great pictures, Joel. So these are from the book Poro and Pictures, and you can see how in that day how organized that was, and that's high tech, highly organized manufacturing, very effective uh, concept.
So she put these products together, and then she started Poro College. She owned the city block in Chicago, but she started in early like 1905, I think it was. Sarah Breedlove, who later became known as Madam C.J. Walker, was there for about 9 or 10 months. Then she moved. Sarah Breedlove then moved to Denver. She met Mr. Walker, and tell us a little bit about that story, and maybe even some of the tension that emerged after Madam C.J. Walker left. Because I know that 1906, that was 1905, 1906, when Sarah Breedlove, here's a picture of Madam C.J. Walker. And this is a booklet, by the way. It's available on Amazon anywhere books are sold. Uh, but it's a reproduction. But she then came out with her Madam C.J. Walker's wonderful hair grower, and it was. Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, my understanding is that Sarah Breedlove at that time she had two brothers that were also barbers that were trained in Poro College. Uh, Madam C.J. Walker attended Poro. Uh, she was there as a student, and then she became an agent. She was employed by Annie Malone, and really Annie Malone kind of became a mentor to Miss uh, Madam C.J. Walker. And so Madam C.J. Walker, when she went out west and she met her husband, she decided that she was going to borrow, let's say, the Poro business model, even the same name for the hair product. So eventually, she just kind of took off Poro and put Madam C.J. Walker products and made millions of dollars. I mean, her and Annie Malone were kind of in parallel universes in a sense. They were both in the hair care product. They both had the exact same model, but uh, Annie Malone was the originator of the model. Uh, she was Madam C.J. Walker's mentor, but they both really made a lot of money. But also, they also kind of became competitors, as as business folks do. Madam C.J. Walker was much more of a showboat type of person. Annie Malone was more of a quiet type person, although they both had big cars. They both had big cars, they both traveled, but they had totally different styles of their presentations. But I say, Joe, I met Miss Bundles, and as I met her, uh, I got a different perspective. I just think that Miss Bundles is Madam C.J. Walker's great granddaughter, the one that kind of really marketed and made publicized Madam C.J. Walker. That wasn't done with Annie Malone because my grandmother and them really didn't. That wasn't their style. So uh, and Annie was low key. But they did become competitors. But as I look at things, I think that they both had a place. I mean, they both were great business people. They were both millionaires. They were both icons. And there's a lot that we can really learn from both individuals.
The thing that I saw, and I think I might have learned this from you, that in 1906, that's when Annie started making sure she had everything trademarked and
Correct.
her process,
Correct.
patent and everything else. And that was just at the same time that Madam C.J. Walker was taking off with her products. And so I think that maybe, like they say that, when we come up with policy always comes out of pain. It's like something happens and we're never doing that again. So we're going to develop a policy so that never happens again. And so it seemed to me that she developed a whole legal sense at that point.
Yes. Well, she did, but because she had other competitors who were also imitating her product. And so as a result, to protect herself, but Madam C.J. Walker was known to be the biggest, but there were others too. So that is
Mhm.
time, and you're correct, Joe. That's the time that she big big business deal had to do the copyright to protect her products and her name and her image. So yeah, that was one of the first.
What can we learn from that? Because I know that there's, like you said, a place for both. And is there any wisdom that you have extrapolated from that that gleaned for us in this day and age?
Well, I still digesting like Miss Bundles. I look at her perspective and her view of her great grandmother. I look at from what I know about Madam C.J. Walker. Uh, I think we just have to learn that we can still be competitors, but we don't have to tear each other down to compete. I think
Hmm.
that originality is important. But I mean, it's like Coke versus Pepsi. I mean, they're basically the same thing. It's just how you market it. But the thing though that really motivated me to write this book was watching Netflix Self Made.
Hmm.
And in that movie, I mean, a lot of people think that that was factual, but that was Hollywood. But the
Hmm.
thing that bothered me, and is where the little fire came from me, was uh, how they assassinated Ani. As more like a predator, like a hater. That was not Annie Malone's personality. Uh, Even though hey, you got my product. Hey, I don't know. It's kind of like almost like imposter syndrome. Mirror, mirror, and on the wall, who's the greatest of them all? Well, I think Madam C.J. Walker may have had an imposter syndrome. She kind of thought that she was Annie Malone, and went out on that track to almost. If you The Walker Theater in Indianapolis is an exact duplicate of Fordham College. If anybody in Indianapolis, you go to the Walker Theater, duplicate. So there was a lot of duplication, but I think having someone, if you're going to have a product, and well, Madam C.J. Walker did make it hers, but in
Hmm.
reality, it wasn't hers. It was borrowed. But be able to forgive, be able to let people get in their own lane because eventually, the truth will come out. Whatever it is, people are gonna like Madam C.J. Walker. People are gonna like Poro. Uh, but just don't
And,
kick dirt on people, the competitors.
and one thing about Madam C.J. Walker is, they both were philanthropists, but she gave a lot of money for anti-lynching laws and things like that, to help in those areas. So Just like in the Bible, you had Paul and Silas, and I can't remember. You had different people working together, and then they became kind of competitors in some ways, but they then went on to different ways to help other people. It's Paul and Barnabas, I think it was. And so another question we have from Althea Simmons: what kind of hair products were they?
Well, they had the pressing comb. You had those for the tools. You also just had oil. You also had facial stuff. Annie Malone, she traveled to Europe to get the newest fashions and kept in touch with what's going on across the world. So she had a number of things. She had colognes, creams. I mean, she had a whole variety of things. Pressing oil, all those kind of things that Joe is powders, those kind of things that you see. What I remember seeing at when I would visit the farm would be these canisters. It's almost identical. If you ever seen Madam C.J. Walker's, they're identical. But that was hair oil that you would put on. Back in the day, primary thing was goose oil. But she refined that due to those natural herbs and things that Mother Moody taught her. And she was able to really create a number and a variety of things, not just for the hair, but for the skin, just in beauty and health, period. Perfume. Joe, remember we were here, we found that little perfume bottle.
Yes.
It was really, really small. So even some oils and perfumes that she had. But one of the things too that sets Annie Malone from Madam C.J. Walker was that Annie Malone was a deeply religious person. She really believed in the power of words, prayers. Was a great one of the first servant leaders in that leadership model. Her faith really helped her overcome a lot of trauma. First of all, being an orphan is trauma. Moving from your family into a new house, that's trauma. Loving someone and finding that I always thought, Joe, that I call him Pimp Aaron, always had a 13-year plan. He had a plan in my mind, and his plan was to take over the business. But having someone that you love, that you trust, and
That was her husband for that period of time, and they ended up getting being divorced,
yes,
right? Yeah.
yes,
Okay, just for our listeners, our viewers, yeah.
yeah, and took half of her empire, but she never really got over that in the sense of emotionally. Uh, but her faith helped her overcome those kind of things. She was in her early days, Joe. I don't know if you know, but she was involved uh, with a church movement. She was a church leader at the age of 14. Uh, so she was temperance. She was part of the temperance movement against alcohol and those kind of things. And she incorporated those spiritual principles and foundations in her business as well.
Mhm.
So that was a distinct difference, as far as I know, from her to Madam C.J. Walker.
I know one day I was in St. Louis for another purpose, but I had much of the day, and I put on my GPS. There was a Pine Street. She first started in Pine Street, I think it was, and then she went to Ferdinand, and went several different places. So I went on GPS, and I went to these different sites. Of course, there's different buildings there, different places, but at the Ferdinand Street Avenue, I think it is. There's a new building there, but still St. James AME Church is there, and that was her church, right across the street.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean Annie, and another thing, Joe, Annie uh, stuttered. A lot of people
Hmm.
didn't know that she stuttered, and so it was her pastor, I think it was Water in Memphis or somewhere, really helped her overcome her stuttering. But also, when she moved here with the Moody family, they were also in the church. Yes, yes, yeah. Now,
That's
so
the
what
first
Joe is
first
showing,
building.
yes, the first building. You can see that's really a shack. That
Yeah.
first one is a
Yeah.
shack.
Yeah.
4 room. It was 4 room, my understanding, and then they moved on to the next one, next building,
And that was in
before it
Lovejoy.
became that. Yep. Before
This
it
was
came
on
that
Market
that.
Street. This was on
Yep.
Market Street
Mm-hmm.
in St. Louis. And then she moved to this building right here,
Yes. Yes.
which is, I
And
believe, on
those
Pine Street, 3100
Pine
Pine
Street.
Street, St. Louis.
Pine Street. Mm-hmm.
And this is the entrance to the final building in St. Louis. So
And in that, go ahead.
Portia is saying, I'm sorry, I cut you off. You're about to say something.
No. I was just going to say, in that St. Louis building, they had everything. They had men's club, they had restaurant, they had ice cream parlor. I mean, it was like almost like a civic center. Really, it was way ahead of her time. And at that time, Joe, she also had said that Aaron collaborated with some of the uh, competitors so that she really couldn't get the building, but she overcame that anyway. She just kind of went against him, but yeah, her spiritual
And that
foundation was.
building in
Mhm.
St. Louis had a mezzanine at the top,
Yes,
with
yes,
flowers. You could look over the city. It had
yes,
a room for men to come and play
yes,
pool and hang out.
yes,
And I
yes,
mean, it was a place where people could stay at a time
yes,
where Black people could not stay. There's no, you had the Green Book later on, but you just didn't have a place to stay if you were a Black entertainer or whatever. And she hosted a lot of concerts there too.
a
I think
lot of
she did
concerts.
900
Yes,
people.
yes, a lot of. I got a picture somewhere with Paul Robeson,
Yes.
shaking he's my uncle. I don't know where that picture went, but I mean, she had people from all over the world. She loved music. I don't know if she ever played music that I saw, but I know she had a piano. Aaron gave her a piano. That's
Hmm.
her husband. But we're talking about a really civic center that hosted a lot of events worldwide. I mean, that building was an attraction from all over the country, all over the world in her time.
And when St.
She was
Louis had disaster, she opened up
tornado.
Poro College for people to come
Yep,
in and
yep,
hang out there to
yep.
recover.
There was a tornado,
Hmm.
and the people came in and they partnered with the Red Cross, so a lot of people came in into the Poro College to take refuge from that terrible tornado.
That's
But
right.
Annie Malone, I just want to say this too. I often wonder. Her parents were slaves, escaped slaves, but they gave her the middle name Minerva. My daughter
Hmm.
asked me, said, "Dad, what is that? What's Minerva?" I said, Just some European name. I don't know what it is." But then I looked it up. So, are you familiar with that story, Minerva, Joel?
No, I'm not. Tell me.
Middle name? So, well, her middle name is Minerva. I always believe in the power of name. So, Minerva is associated with the Greek goddess Athena.
Huh.
So, Minerva is like the god of commerce, business, and health. And I
Huh.
always thought, well, where did slaves get that kind of knowledge? And how did they know to name out of all the children, to name this child Minerva? And
Hmm.
unless they had, I say that Annie Malone came from she knew her purpose at birth. But not only that, so did her parents. Her parents knew that this child was very special, or they never would have named her that. Where they
Hmm.
got the knowledge, I don't know where they got the knowledge, but it really helped her reach her purpose because those things associated with her name, commerce, business, health, is what she really manifested in her life. So I've always
Yeah,
wondered about that, Joel.
that's fascinating. Now,
Yeah.
Portia, I think you just answered it. I read, she says, I read, Portia Logan says, read somewhere that Annie Malone was the daughter of slaves, was abandoned and raised by her older sister in Illinois. I think you already
And
responded to that, right?
well, I'll just just
So I have one more
reiterate.
question. We have 4 minutes left.
Okay. Yeah, she came. Annie Malone came to live in Peoria, lived with her older sister, married sister, and her sister Ada was married to my great grandfather William, and they took her in and they raised her. But there are also a lot of movies here waiting for her to receive her.
Mm-hmm.
You had a question, Joe?
Now, her heyday was in the late teens, in the 20s, till about 27 or so, 1927,
Yes.
from what I could have studied. And then when she
Yes.
went through the divorce, she discovered that her husband had not been paying taxes, and that came back to bite her big time. And that's really what brought her down,
Yes.
because she had been such a philanthropist. She had been traveling around helping other people, and she thought that her husband was taking care of the things at home, and he wasn't. He was spending money wildly. He was entertaining. He was just a gadfly, in my opinion. I have
Yes.
zero respect for him as a man,
Yes.
as a human being. But
Yes.
anyway, what happened was that after that, I see pictures of her like in the 30s and the 40s, and her whole body language is stooped over. It's like life beat her up. Could you talk about that? Is that the truth? I mean, in terms of her body language and her just feeling beat up afterwards?
Yeah. She never recovered from that divorce.
Hmm.
And so this thing of trust and betrayal is like post-traumatic stress for her. And as she aged, when she moved to Chicago, she was 60 years old. So she had to start it
Yeah.
all over again. But in that time, though, Joe, from the letters that I read, Aunt Annie, because she didn't trust anyone, she became her own accountant as
Hmm.
well. And so she sold the building in St. Louis and bought the poor old block, but didn't pay taxes on it. She did not pay taxes. Her nephews and them started realizing, they started getting letters from the feds, and they would say, Are you paying taxes?"
Hmm.
"No, baby, I'm not. I'm not."
Wow. Well, I think I think Agbara's screen has frozen. And so we're just at the very end of our show. Agbara, if you can hear me, thank you so much for coming on the show tonight. And what a pleasure it is. You're just such a dear friend. Thank you for all that you have done for so many. And the can you give us your website? I'm going to be putting up on the QR code too, which is chiefmischiefmaker.com. But what is
Yeah,
your
my
website?
my website is Annie Malone Center for Development. Go
Annie
there. It
Malone
has
Center for
Center
Development.
for Development. Yeah, and here's my book that I wrote.
Yes, yes.
It has it has all the pictures and things. Now I really wrote this for kids because a lot of pictures because kids don't like to read, and it's short. But in
Is
there,
it
I just
on
want to say
Amazon?
yes, it's on Amazon. Yes, or you can just contact me and I can give you a signed portion of it.
Okay.
But there's five things I just want to share that I got from Annie Malone. One is vision. The other one is having a plan of action. The other one is personal and community empowerment because Annie Malone really believed in community and personal empowerment. The other one is resilience, being able to bounce back. And then one of the most important one is having a spiritual foundation. And so
That's
those are
wonderful.
the principles that I really teach to young people, older people too, because when you have those things, then you become like a Joe Freeman. Joe, I just
Agbara,
want to say
thank you. Go
thank
ahead.
you. Thank you so much, Joe. Thank you. I really appreciate you. Thank you so much. Thank you. And thank
Such
you
a
for having me
pleasure.
on your show.
Oh, it's
Thank
it's it's well, pleasure's all mine and honor. Thank you. We're gonna sign off now and wishing you all the best. And next week we're gonna have a really good show. And ebony, that's all, folks.
You have just experienced another episode of the Mischief Maker broadcast. Hit the subscribe button. Connect at chiefmischiefmaker.com. Thanks for coming along for the ride. And hopefully, you are now a bit closer to becoming a mischief maker in your part of the world.